Omega, Jaeger-LeCoultre and IWC. Which one of these three stainless steel blue dial chronographs win the battle? Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Alex and in this video I'm going to compare three different chronographs in stainless steel with blue dials from the brands Omega, Jaeger-LeCoultre and IWC. These are priced at within-ish the same price segment. The Jaeger-LeCoultre is a bit more expensive than the other two, but I think it's an interesting comparison between three different brands within the luxury watch segment. Before we move on to the comparison, I would like to say thank you to the guys over at NK Fine Jewelry and Watches in Stockholm for having me and filming these watches within the beautiful store. All these watches are available to purchase through NK Fine Jewelry and Watches, and if you are in Stockholm visiting, check them out. They have a beautiful store with a lot of nice watches. Alright, so let's just go through some quick facts about each and one of the watches, and let's start with the most recent release with the Omega Speedmaster 57 that was released this year in a couple of different colorways. The Omega measures 40.5 millimeters in diameter, is just below 13 millimeters thick at 12.99 millimeters and has a lug-to-lug length of 49.5 millimeters. The case mixes both satin finished and polished surfaces. The majority of the case, or the upper part of the case, is polished with the brushed case sides. We have a 3-link construction bracelet with brushed parts in the middle with polished outlinks. The bracelet is 20 millimeter wide at the lugs and it tapers down to around 50 millimeters at the buckle. The watch is water resistant down to 50 meters. It doesn't have a screw down crown. It has a micro adjustment in the clasp for easy adjustments on the fly, and it doesn't have a quick change system for the bracelet. For the dial and movement on the Omega, we have a blue sunburst dial with applied hour markers and two registers, one for the chronograph and one for the running seconds. At 6 o'clock we also have a date window. It's powered by the in-house METAS certified chronograph caliber 9906. It has 60 hours of power reserve and is fairly nicely decorated. It's a manual winding movement opposed to the IWC and the Jaeger-LeCoultre. The price tag for the Omega Speedmaster 57 varies a bit depending on your country, but it's priced around 9,500 euros on the bracelet. Then we have the Jaeger-LeCoultre Polaris Chronograph. It has a 42 millimeter stainless steel case that measures 11.9 millimeters in thickness and has a lug-to-lug length of 48.7 millimeters. It has a satin finished case with a nice bevel on the lugs. It's 21 millimeters wide at the lugs. It has also a 3-link construction bracelet. It has a screw down crown and is water resistant down to 100 meters. This one has also a micro adjustment on both sides of the clasp because this one has a quadruple folding clasp. It doesn't have any quick change system for the bracelet though. For the dial, that's also blue of course, we have both a grain texture on the outer part of the dial with a sunburst effect on the middle part of the dial. This one is also a bi-compex with two registers, although no running seconds on this one, but we have a 30-minute counter for the chronograph as well as a 12-hour counter for the chronograph. It's powered by the in-house caliber 761 with 65 hours of power reserve and a very nice finish to it as well. And the price tag for this piece is 14,500 euros on the bracelet. Last but not least, the IWC Pilots Chronograph, reference number 3881. This one measures in at 41 millimeters in diameter, is 14.5 millimeters thick and about 51.5 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. It has a satin finished case with a polished bezel and a small chamfer on the lugs that's also polished. It's 20 millimeter between the lugs, screw down crown and water resistant down to 100 meters. It comes on either a leather strap or the pilot's bracelet. Unfortunately not on the bracelet this time, but both the leather strap and the bracelet has a quick switch system for changing straps easily. The IWC has a 3-counter dial, one for the running seconds and 2 for the chronograph. It also has a day date display, and this is quite the essential pilot's watch and a Fliegeruhr, as you call it in German. It's powered by the in-house caliber 69385 that has 43 hours of power reserve, and it's also visible through the open case pack. And the price tag for the IWC Pilots Chrono is 8.5K on the leather strap or approximately 9.5k on the bracelet. So we have 3 beautiful blue dial stainless steel chronographs, and it's going to be a hard decision to decide which one I like the best. I've decided to rank them according to some different categories and from what I think is important for these watches. They are all very nice to look at, and they feel really good, have nice in-house movement, each one of them. So let's start with the wearability. And for the wearability, we have the 42mm Jaeger-LeCoultre, 41mm IWC and 40.5mm Speedmaster. And I must say that even though the Jaeger-LeCoultre has the largest diameter, I must say it wears probably the nicest on my 16.5 centimeter wrist, and that translates to roughly 6.5 inches. I was a bit shocked, but thanks to the ergonomics of the case with the sloped lugs, this one wears really nice, and it's also the thinnest of the 3 with the thickness of just below 12 millimeters. So in terms of wearability, I like the Jaeger-LeCoultre the best, and in the second place I would choose the Omega because it's the one that has the best lug length for me. The IWC is too large and bulky for my wrist. It's a long lug to lug length and also quite thick. So out of the 3, I would choose either the Jaeger-LeCoultre or the Omega if you're looking at the wearability for my wrist. When it comes to the overall looks of the watches, I'm quite a fan of all 3. They have quite different takes on a chronograph and how it should look. The Omega really caught my attention immediately when it was released, and it was released in several different colorways. We also have a burgundy one with a matte dial finish, a matte black dial one with a sandwich construction to dial with the Fauxtina fake loom basically, or colored loom, and also a green one. I like the looks of the Omega. It's a typical semi-retro inspired Speedmaster chronograph with 2 registers. I've also always been a fan of the IWC Pilots Watches. I've had one, reference 3717, many years ago. It was one of the first watches I purchased. So I've always had kind of a good eye for the Pilots chronographs. The Jaeger is nice, and even though I find it the most wearable of the 3, it's something that I don't like with it. I'm not sure when it comes to the looks, but it's not my winner of the 3. I would rank them Omega, IWC and then the Jaeger. Movement wise, all these 3 watches features in-house calibers, and they are all really nicely finished. Let's start with the Omega that has a manual winding movement. This one is super nice to look at. I love the decoration on the main plate. It looks just very exclusive. It's a really nice finished movement. The IWC is also nice, but I don't think this one is as appealing to the eye as the Omega. And also the Jaeger-LeCoultre, I would say, is also a really nicely finished movement with Geneva stripes on the rotor and on the bridges. So when it comes to the movement and how it functions, it's a tough one. I would rank the Jaeger-LeCoultre as the highest one, with Omega closely following it. For me, the power reserve of the IWC is a bit of a letdown, I must say. For the movement, I would say that round goes to the Jaeger-LeCoultre with a gold star, but on second place the Omega Speedmaster. Last but not least, the value. What do we actually get here for our money? Let's start with the Jaeger-LeCoultre. That is the far most expensive watch of the 3. It's almost 50% more expensive than the other 3. Which makes it kind of fun to also have in this comparison. I mean, Jaeger-LeCoultre is a brand with a lot of heritage, and they're also considered the watchmaker's watchmaker. I wouldn't spend 15,000 euros on this watch, to be fully honest, because that's too much for me to spend for a chronograph, I'd say. The same goes for the IWC. They've also steadily raised their prices during the years, even though it's a nice design and a nicely finished movement. I don't think I'd spend almost 10k for this watch. And also the Omega, I must say, I might be a bit cheap, but for me, almost 10,000 euros for this watch, no, I wouldn't. So value-wise, it's up to you guys to decide. I can't really say which one has the best value. For me, it's none of them, so to say, but all three are very nice watches, very nice chronographs, and with both in-house movements and nice design language and case finishes, etc. So for the value aspect, I'd say this one is a draw, because it also depends on in which kind of aspect you see the value in. Is it the movements? Is it the dials, the case design, the heritage of the brand? So I'll leave this one to you guys to decide. Let me know in the comment section which one you think has the best value for the money. Quick pros and cons for all three. Let's start with the Omega. I like the looks pro, I like the movement pro. I like that they have slimmed down the watch both in diameter and in thickness compared to the older version. Very big pro, of course. On the downside, it's quite expensive nowadays. I don't like the price tag too much, to be honest. And for the Jaeger-LeCoultre, the wearability and the finish, big pros in my book. The con obviously is the price tag. Maybe it's me that's too cheap, but for me it's too much money to spend for a stainless steel chronograph. And last but not least, the IWC. It's a very nice Pilots chronograph. For the downside, I'm not a huge fan of the sunburst dials, and this one is very much in your face. And also the power reserve is so-so for a watch at this price range. So yeah, that's a quick rundown of my pros and cons with each and every one of these watches, and that concludes actually this comparison as well. So let me know, guys, what you think about these three pieces. Which one is your favorite? Which one do you think offers the most bang for the buck in your eyes? And what do you consider most important when picking a watch like these? Is it the design, the movement? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. It would mean a lot if you could do that and help this small channel grow. Stay tuned, and we'll see each other next week.